Hi YouTube, welcome to Shimmer Girl Talks. The other day I was online and I saw I saw an article called "The Billion Dollar Romance Fiction Industry Has a Diversity Problem." And it got me to thinking. I've been wanting to kind of discuss this anyway, and that is, do black women and white women have the same ideals when it comes to what constitutes romance and relationships. In particular, when it comes to reading about them, like in a romance book. And my answer to that is going to be not from what I can see. And the reason I say that is because I think that for example, and I've touched on this before on various blogs that I've written and on forums. I think, for example, like with white women, they tend to grow up, with, I think all women do, as a matter of fact. But I think it comes down to reality depending on race. And so let me go back to what I was saying. White women, on one hand, they grow up with the Disney princesses, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty. I don't know them all, but so they kind of grow up with that. Then they have the romance books, which I mean is probably the main chunk of the $1 billion industry in romance is white heroines. Because I don't know that I mean, maybe the white readership is a little bit more too. Although I have read somewhere that black women also make up a large chunk of romance readership. But honestly, and it's my opinion, I could be dead wrong, I think that we have a differing take on what constitutes romance. And let's delve into that. I think for white women, they tend to have more of a fantasy view when it comes to romance. Think about the books that are out there for them or for women that looks like them. They have the sweet, they have the contemporary, they have the historical, they have the gothic, they have the maybe the horror or the paranormal. We don't really have that. And quite honestly, I don't think that we would even bother to even read it if the hero and heroine look like us. I don't think that that is something that would be a great seller for us. I think for us, for the most part, we tend to be more reality oriented when it comes to romance books. I think that black women like to read romance books that are more realistic, something that they can perhaps relate to. I mean, when you look at what's really popular out there, it's typically like either like a boss bitch type scenario, a woman who is either um, so weak in the knees over a man that does her wrong, um, or some type of a bad boy type man, hero. Not that the white books don't do that, because they do that too, but again, I think that there is still like a greater variety of books that they can choose from. And when we think about it, I don't think also that white women really want to read romance books where the heroine looks like us. Um, I have had a lot of white readers of my books. As a matter of fact, when I first started publishing, which was about 3 years ago, um, and I had a young man describing or designing my first cover. The book was at the time was called Destiny, a Romance Novella. but the cover has since been changed. Even the title has been changed. It's now it's this one right here, and the designer, he was a young black man, maybe 30, 31 or so. And so I gave him the synopsis of my story. And being very new to the writing world, the publishing world, I asked him, I said, so who do you think my book would appeal to? He told me white suburban women. I was flabbergasted. I'm like, I'm a black woman. My character is black. Her love interest is black. But the storyline he felt was more in line with white suburban women. And that was not my goal. I mean, if they want to read it, great, you know. I've even had somebody else describe my books as bougie. And, you know, and I'll go a little bit a step further and say, you know, like maybe along the lines of Claire and Cliff Huxtable type story. You know, they're safe, easy to read, you know, I guess you could say out of touch with reality. You know, my books are probably as fantasy as you can get as far as, you know, they're not, you know, really the stereotype. It's not, you know, really what you see in our communities, you know, with, you know, black women complaining about, you know, quality of men, a shortage of good men. You know, my characters, you know, they have their challenges, but they tend to live in a bubble. And that was my goal. That's my purpose. That's how I write, you know. I'm not down for the, you know, like the street or the hood stuff. And that's actually what's very popular, I believe, with our readership. So going back to what I was saying, you know, I think black women have more of a realistic um, view on when it comes to wanting to read romance, whereas white women tend to have more of a fantasy view of it. And honestly, I think I lean more towards the fantasy view of romance because for me, romance is it's an escape. I used to lose myself in a good romance book. I mean, it would be like maybe this thick. And I would used to go through like 2 books a week, maybe not that thick, but 2 books a week. And you know, that was like before the internet and cable. You know, reading, you know, really was my life, you know, and I love to read. I still love to read, though I don't read as much as I, you know, would like to. But I do, going back to what I just said, I do think that we do tend to have a different outlook on romance compared to other women. And I wrote an article not too long ago called Black Women Love Romance Too. We love the whole idea of romance, but I think that we just receive it differently. And I'm about to make some people mad. This isn't an encouragement for swirling, it's an observation. Please note, an observation. I think that's one reason why shows like Scandal is so popular because I think, okay, let's put it this way. And remember, Bravo just had To Rome for Love. And do you remember how the women acted in awe of these men doing nice things for them? It was almost embarrassing. Like, black men don't do that. You know, these women were like almost going overboard. Like these men were being gentlemen and giving them flowers and candy and, you know, and taking them to the park and holding their hands. And I'm like, is that so rare in our communities that these women had to be in awe over this? That should be the norm. So that goes back to, you know, the types of romance that I was just talking about. I think that some black women are probably more could accept that more from a man that's not black as opposed to a man that is black. And it could be a case of men, black men, not really doing that. And I'm not saying all. Please don't take this as me saying all. I mean, I know that interracial relationships and topics is such a hotbed topic, but it's just me making an observation. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the different, you know, how black women perceive romance as opposed to white women. And again, I do think that there is a difference, reality versus fantasy, in what we want to read. So, check out my videos, subscribe. But please make sure you check out my videos first. Make sure that I have something that you want to hear. And just subscribe to my channel. And I will most definitely be back with something else to talk about. Talk to you soon. Bye.